155, we're definitely going with Diego Don't Call Me Dirty Sanchez to win that fight. We've also got Justin Salas versus Jason Sago. Sago's 10-2, Salas is 12-6. That's horrible. Sago 3 inches on him as well. They fight at 155. Sago out of Canada, Salas out of USA. Going Sago confidently in that one. And then finally we've got Julian Erosa versus Teruto Ishihara. Ishihara is 8-2-2. Erosa is 15-3. Erosa's got 6 inches on him. They're fighting at 145, and I think this one's going to be ugly for Ishihara out of Japan versus Erosa out of USA. Erosa big in that one. Boom, there's your UFC 196 preview, and we will be recapping that in depth on next week's show. Moving on to from real fighting to fake fighting, air quotations. Talking a little pro wrestling, WWE. Undertaker was on Raw this past week. Really wasted, pointless experience or spot. Didn't explain anything. Wasn't entertaining. Just dumb. Road to WrestleMania 32. Not all that excited, but it's still WrestleMania, so we'll try to make the best of it. We're gonna have a live event on the WWE Network in between now and WrestleMania called Roadblock. That will take place in Toronto, and the main event will feature Triple H defending his title versus Dean Ambrose. And boy, if Dean Ambrose if they were to pull a twist there and somehow get Dean Ambrose the title to where we could have Dean and Roman or a Dean Roman Triple H, that would be so much better than Roman versus Triple H. Because I'm telling you, WWE, you are going to have 90,000 plus people in that stadium in Texas cheering for your bad guy champion Triple H and booing your young good guy that you're trying to push, Roman Reigns, and you don't want none of that. But that's all the WWE we're going to talk tonight. Lucha Underground, watched it tonight. Another new episode every Wednesday. You got to check it out on the El Rey Network, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, every Wednesday night. It is the best wrestling television production I've ever seen in my life, by far, hands down, bar none. And tonight was no exception. Fairly mediocre opening match, which was rare. Good promos, as always. Phenomenal middle match that ended in an extremely rare but super believable and sensible disqualification. Something the WWE knows nothing about. Between Prince Puma, Pentagon Jr., and then involving Mil Muertes, champion, to break it up and end the match in a DQ. And then the main event was a ladder match for the Gift of the Gods belt, which is their version of the Money in the Bank briefcase, and that was between Phoenix and King Cuerno, and Phoenix came out victorious, and that, of course, was as awesome of a match as anyone who knows anything about Lucha Underground would expect it to be. So that is all for our wrestling quickie this week. We've got a skiing super quickie, tiny bit of NFL news, and then we'll do a quickie balls deep thought of the day and get out of here at just a little bit over 2 hours. Alright, so in skiing news, apparently the downhill skiing, winter skiing season is upon us, underway, nearing playoff time or whatever the heck it is they do. I have no idea how any of it works. I don't follow it at all. But you might, and it was in the news today on the old ESPN, so I figured I'd mention it. But Lindsey Vonn, former girlfriend of Tiger Woods, Olympic gold medalist, Minnesota ties, the most famous skier in American history, one of our more famous female athletes, nationally and internationally, you could even say. She had to announce season-ending injury earlier today or this week, and apparently she was leading in the standings for the season of the skiing season. Whatever that is, I know nothing about it. So it's very hard for her. I would assume, with it being March now, that the skiing season is nearing the end. I don't know. So that made it hard for her. And in all reality, we all wish her the best. Nobody wishes her any ill will, but nobody cares either. Like, if it ain't Olympics when it comes to skiing, or maybe X Games, nobody cares. So sorry to break that to you, Lindsay, and to everyone else listening. But alas, we wish her, she's a great person from what we know of her, and we wish her a speedy recovery, and hopefully whenever the next Winter Olympics are, she will be completely ready to go and can bring home a bunch of gold medals for USA, 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 USA. All right. So we move now to our final topic of the night before our closing segment, Ball's Deep Thought of the Day. And that brings us to the NFL of all places. Very rare that the NFL is left for last here on the show. As far as Vikings goes, obvious team needs here in the offseason, a safety to go alongside Harrison Smith. Defensively, that's about it. Maybe add some depth to the cornerbacks. Another outside linebacker to replace Chad Greenway, whether he resigns or not, would be great. We wouldn't have to do that if we would have just kept Gerald Hodges, but we were morons on that trade. A rare miss for Spielman, our GM. And then, a backup defensive end. Looks like Robeson will be gone and Hunter will move up to the starting role, so we'll need we'll need someone to fill Hunter's role from last year. And plus the D-line is just a place you can't have too much depth. But really not a lot of needs on defense, or the whole team for that matter. But then looking on offense, biggest need being the offensive line needing to improve. Now, whether that's done via the draft, whether that's done via free agency, or whether that's done via getting pieces like Phil Lodeholt and John Sullivan healthy and on the field and contributing and playing at a high level once again, and moving some of the other pieces around that we have. I don't know what the right successful approach is to that. All I can tell you is that I am by no means set on taking an offensive lineman with our first round pick sitting at 23 in the draft, because I think that's a terrible place to pick an offensive lineman unless you're taking the best guard or the best center in the draft. If you're taking a tackle or a multi-position playing offensive lineman like a Zach Martin, who's a tackle / guard or whatever, that's a terrible place. You're going to be getting the 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th best guy, and you're going to be reaching on him. Whereas if you go safety, which I've been saying we're going to do all along, the best safety in this draft, whoever that is going to be sitting there at number 23, and the Vikings are going to take that guy. Well, guess what? The combine comes and goes. All I hear about is there's no safety we're taking at 23. There's no safety we're taking at 23. Now here it is, middle of the week, combine's done, and what do I see on ESPN from Todd McShay, their best draft analyst, alongside Mel Kiper Jr.? This V. Bell guy from wherever the heck he's from. I want to say Ohio State possibly. But there's a safety named Bell, and he is the 17th ranked player overall on the entire big board, and he should and will likely be sitting there at 23, and the Vikings will take him. It's just like, see, I told you guys. I freaking told you guys. But anyway, like I said, offensively, you got O-line needs, and you've got wide receiver needs. I think that's the only other reasonable selection with our 23rd overall pick in the first round, because we're going to likely have one of the 3 best receivers in the draft still available at 23. And if we can get Josh Doxson, or Mike Thomas is the guy I'm personally biggest on coming out of the combine, looking at everything that he has to offer on paper, Mike Thomas, I think, is the best receiver in this draft, even though Treadwell is the unanimous number 1 wide receiver in this draft. I think Mike Thomas is the best pro receiver. If I could have any of them, if I was drafting for a pro team and said you can have any receiver in this draft, which one do you want? I take Mike Thomas. You heard it here first. Treadwell's going to go, and then it will be Doxson and Thomas, maybe in that order, maybe in reverse order. But those are your 3 receivers that are going to be off the board in the draft, and at least 1 to 2 of them will almost certainly be there when the Vikings pick at 23. It's going to be a very offensive line, defensive line, and quarterback-heavy first 22 picks, as well as secondary. You'll see plenty of corners and a few linebackers go as well. But you will not see more than 1 running back go in those first 22 picks. You will not see more than 1 to 3 wide receivers go in those first 22 picks. So the Vikings will have a tough decision to make if both Bell and the receiver they like most are there. We'll see how Mike Wallace and other off-season things play into that as well as like Sendejo and the safeties Nelson and Loka from the Bengals, and a lot of things to be determined yet. But definitely at 23 here now, I think what we know coming out of the combine is the Vikings should be looking safety or wide receiver with the first round pick, not offensive line, although that is still the biggest area of need that they need to address and improve somehow in this off season. And in final Vikings-related news, make sure to visit VikingsDigitalDiaries.com every week. I'm interviewing former Vikings every week or almost every week. It's awesome. Last week was Troy Williamson. They're usually about 15 minutes long. If you're a Vikes fan, if you're a me fan, please do me a solid. Check it out every week. All right. And then in final bit of NFL news, plenty of big cuts announced from teams this week. Plenty of big signings and franchise tags. Sam Bradford got a 2-year deal for like almost $20 million a year with the Eagles. Are you kidding me? Wow, are they trying to relocate that franchise to a different city? Wow. Some cuts. You've got Roddy White cut from the Falcons. You've got Brandon LaFell cut from the Patriots. All kinds of stuff. Don't have time to go into all of it. Oh, Kirk Cousins got franchise tag. Expect him to sign that. Von Miller got offered the franchise tag from the Broncos. Peyton Manning might want to play another year, which is just a bad decision for everybody. But yeah, for any more specific minor NFL news like that, just tune in next week. Or, best thing you can do, connect with me on social media, because I repost and retweet all that stuff I don't have time to include in the show, stuff that happens on days that don't make it then into that week's show or the next week's show. So like and friend me on Facebook. Great way to connect. Search Scotty Ball, and also follow me on Twitter at BDST Show. All right, well, here we are now at our balls deep thought of the day. We close every show with it. We're going to make it nice and short and sweet and quick. Most of the show tonight, half of the freaking show tonight or more, was baseball talk, because I'm pumped about the spring training's here, baseball season's here, spring's here, and I'm stoked about it. And baseball is my third favorite team sport, maybe my fourth favorite team sport. Football's definitely my favorite, then basketball. Boy, I don't know. Hockey just keeps rising and keep rising. Like, honestly, baseball might be my fourth favorite team sport, professional team sport right now. Very possible. If not, it's third. It definitely ain't any higher than third. But I'm stoked about it. And so that got me to thinking for balls deep thought of the day. So I'm just going to lay it on you, short and sweet and simple, tell you what I think, and then we'll get out of here. Does Major League Baseball have the best preseason of all the major professional sports here in America? And in my opinion, it is a resounding, without question, yes. And to me, there's only two possible candidates that you could even say. Now, the key factor when thinking this, and I have to do this for myself, like I said, that's why I pointed out where it is on my personal rankings. I have to remove my own personal favoriteness and my own personal fandom. Like, I can't say football is the best preseason in all of pro sports because it's my favorite sport. Well, yeah, it's my favorite sport, but that's no reason why it's the best preseason in all of sports. Like, that has nothing to do with the question whatsoever. So, having removed that and looking at it as unbiasedly as any one person can, I realized that baseball spring training, just the way they do it, they all go to someplace nice and warm. It's all really casual and really fun. Everything about spring training, it is the best preseason in all of pro sports. NFL would be second. Problem with the NFL, I mean, yeah, you see players, you get 4 games. You only see in anybody in 3 of them, and in those 3 games, they're only playing for a couple series, maybe a quarter or 2. People aren't really all that competitive and trying to win, just all these kinds of stuff. Baseball, the game itself and the competition itself is still kept completely pure and respectable for the most part in the preseason. So it's got that element to it that none of the other sports have. As well as, like I said, the nice weather, just everything. Football would be second, and then I think you'd probably have to go NHL hockey third, because the NBA's preseason is non-existent. It is a joke. It's nothing. It is literally nothing. The NBA doesn't even have a preseason in all reality. Technically,